Hey lovelies, ready to continue your day? All right, so gather round close. This one's a bit different. A Wall Street millionaire gave up his fortune for 30 days. What he learned about love shocked him. The rain fell heavy on the glass windows of the penthouse suite as Jaden Richards stood alone, staring at the glittering lights of Lagos below. In his hand, a glass of expensive wine. On his wrist, a watch worth more than most people earned in 5 years. Around him, silence, the kind that money couldn't fill. He was 32 years old and had everything a man could want. His investment firm had made him a Wall Street legend. His name opened doors across continents. When he walked into a room, people whispered. When he spoke, they listened. But tonight, as thunder rumbled across the sky, Jaden felt something he hadn't felt in years: emptiness. His phone buzzed, another invitation to another party with people who smiled at his money but never at him. He tossed it onto the leather sofa and made a decision that would change his life forever. 30 days, he whispered to himself. 30 days as a common man. The next morning, Jaden called his assistant, Tunde, into his office. "Cancel everything for the next month," Jaden said, his voice steady but his eyes burning with determination. Tunde adjusted his glasses, confused. "Sir, but the merger with the oil company." "Cancel it. Move it. I don't care." Jaden stood and walked to the window. "I need to do something, Tunde, something real. I've been living in a bubble, surrounded by people who only see my bank account. I want to know what life is really like out there." Tunde shifted uncomfortably. "What do you mean, sir?" "I'm going to give up everything for 30 days. No credit cards, no driver, no penthouse. I'll live like an average Nigerian in Abuja. I'll work, I'll struggle, I'll see what it means to live without the safety net I've always had." "Sir, that's dangerous. You don't know those areas." "That's exactly why I need to go." Jaden turned to face him. "Set it up. Find me a small room in a modest neighborhood. Give me just enough money to survive. Nothing more." Tunde wanted to protest, but he knew that look in his boss's eyes. When Jaden Richards made his mind, nothing could change it. 3 days later, Jaden found himself standing in front of a small compound in Mpape, a working-class neighborhood in Abuja. The buildings were old but clean. Children played football in the dusty courtyard. Women gathered around a communal tap, washing clothes and sharing stories. The air smelled of cooking fires and rain-soaked earth. He wore simple clothes, a faded shirt and worn jeans, his designer shoes gone, replaced by a cheap plastic one. In his pocket, just 20,000 naira to last him the entire month. An elderly woman approached him, wiping her hands on her wrapper. Her face was kind, with lines that spoke of both hardship and laughter. "You must be the new tenant," she said warmly. "I am Mama Ngozi. Welcome to our compound." "Thank you, Ma." Jaden extended his hand, and she shook it with a firm grip that surprised him. "My name is Jaden." "Jaden, that's a fine name. Come, let me show you your room." She led him through the compound to a small room at the back. It had a narrow bed, a wooden table, one chair, and a small kerosene stove in the corner. The walls were bare except for a faded calendar from 2 years ago. Through the single window, he could see clothes hanging on lines and children chasing each other. This room was smaller than his walk-in closet back in Lagos. "I know it's not much," Mama Ngozi said, watching his face carefully, "but it's clean and the roof doesn't leak. That's more than some people have." Jaden felt something twist in his chest. "It's perfect, Mama. Thank you." She smiled, and for the first time in years, Jaden felt like someone was seeing him, not his money, not his status, just him. The first week was brutal. Jaden woke up to the sound of roosters and the chatter of neighbors, instead of soft music and air conditioning. He learned to fetch water from the communal tap, standing in line with others while they exchanged morning greetings. He discovered that bathing with a bucket of cold water at dawn could wake you up faster than any alarm clock. He found work at a small electronics repair shop, owned by a man named Chidi, who was quick to laugh and even quicker to work. The pay was meager, 2,000 naira a day, but Chidi treated him like family from the start. "This soldering iron," Chidi explained on Jaden's first day, "it's like life. You have to be patient. Rush it and you'll burn everything. Take your time, apply just enough heat, and things come together perfectly." Jaden found himself actually enjoying the work.
There was something honest about fixing broken things, about taking something that seemed useless and making it work again. But it was the people who truly changed him. There was Mama Ngozi, who would always save him a plate of food even when she barely had enough for herself. "A stranger is just a friend you haven't fed yet," she would say with a toothless grin. There was young Emeka, a 12-year-old boy who helped his mother sell pure water after school, but still found time to teach Jaden how to play draft on the compound veranda. There was Sister Amara, a nurse who worked double shifts at the government hospital, but still volunteered at the community clinic every Sunday. "Money can buy medicine," she told him once, "but it can't buy the will to heal." And there was Chioma. He met her on his second week, at the small provision shop near the compound. She was arguing with the shopkeeper about the price of rice, her voice firm but not unkind. "Oga, you increased the price by 50 naira just last week. How can you increase it again? We are not money-making machines, oh?" The shopkeeper, a round man with a perpetual frown, shrugged. "That's the price everywhere now. If you don't want it, leave it." Chioma sighed, counting the crumpled notes in her hand. Jaden watched her face, the worry, the calculation, the quiet resignation. He knew that look now. He'd seen it on faces throughout the neighborhood. It was the look of someone choosing between today's meal and tomorrow's hope. Before he could think, he stepped forward. "Please, add whatever she needs to my bill." Both Chioma and the shopkeeper turned to stare at him. "I don't need your help," Chioma said quickly, pride flashing in her eyes. "I know," Jaden replied softly, "but I'm offering anyway. No strings, no expectations. Just one neighbor helping another." Something in his voice must have convinced her because her defensive posture softened. She studied his face for a long moment, then nodded. "Thank you, but I will pay you back." "No need." "I will pay you back," she repeated firmly. "My name is Chioma." Jaden. That simple exchange became the beginning of something Jaden had never experienced before, a genuine connection. Chioma was a primary school teacher in a government school. She earned barely enough to support herself and her younger brother Obina, who was studying to become an accountant. Despite her struggles, she had a light in her eyes that Jaden found mesmerizing. She laughed easily, loved deeply, and cared about everyone around her with a fierceness that both humbled and inspired him. They began spending time together, walking to the market, sitting on the compound veranda in the evenings, sharing stories under the stars. She told him about her dreams of opening her own school one day, where children wouldn't have to study under leaking roofs or share torn textbooks. "Money can't buy happiness," she said one evening, "but it can buy opportunities, and opportunities can change lives." Jaden found himself opening up to her in ways he never had with anyone. He told her about feeling lost, about the emptiness of his former life, though he carefully avoided mentioning just how wealthy he was. She listened without judgment, her hand sometimes reaching out to touch his arm for comfort. "You're looking for meaning," Chioma said simply. "That's not a bad thing. Many people live their whole lives without ever asking why they're living it." As the days passed, Jaden felt himself changing. The man who once thought nothing of spending thousands of naira on a single meal now carefully budgeted every kobo. He learned the value of a shared plate of rice, the blessing of cold water on a hot day, the wealth of genuine laughter with friends who had nothing but gave everything. He saw how Mama Ngozi would go without sugar in her tea so that Emeka could have a small sweet for his birthday. He watched Chidi give away repaired phones to people who couldn't afford to pay, trusting they would settle the debt when they could. He observed Sister Amara spending her own money on medicine for patients who had none. These people had so little, yet they gave so much. One evening, as he sat with Chioma watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and purple, she turned to him with serious eyes. "Jaden, can I ask you something?" "Anything." "What are you running from?" The question caught him off guard. "What do you mean?" "I see it in your eyes sometimes, this look like you're hiding from something or someone. You speak differently from us, you carry yourself differently. You're educated, I can tell. So why are you here, in this place, doing this kind of work?" Jaden was silent for a long moment. He wanted to tell her everything about his wealth, his real life, his experiment, but something stopped him. Maybe it was fear that she would see him differently. Maybe it was the realization that for the first time in years, someone valued him for who he was, not what he had. "I was lost," he finally said, and it was the truth.
I had everything I thought I wanted, but I felt empty. I needed to find something real, something that mattered. Chioma took his hand, her touch warm and steady. And did you find it? He looked at her, truly looked at her worn but clean dress, her tired but hopeful eyes, her smile that could light up the darkest night. He thought about the past few weeks, about the laughter and struggles, the simple joys and shared pains. Yes, he whispered, I think I did. She leaned her head on his shoulder and they sat in comfortable silence as the sky darkened and stars began to appear. In that moment, Jaden Richards, the Wall Street millionaire, felt richer than he ever had in his penthouse. But happiness, Jaden was learning, was fragile in a world where survival was uncertain. It started when Abina, Chioma's brother, fell seriously ill. What began as a simple fever quickly escalated into something worse. Sister Amara examined him and her face grew grave. He needs to go to a proper hospital, she told Chioma privately, but Jaden overheard. The clinic here doesn't have the equipment or medicine he needs. This could be typhoid, maybe worse. How much? Chioma asked, her voice trembling. At least 50,000 naira, maybe more. Jaden watched Chioma's face crumble. That was more than 3 months of her salary. She had no savings, no safety net. She was drowning, and he could see her going under. That night, Jaden lay awake on his narrow bed, staring at the ceiling. He could solve this problem with a single phone call. One call to Tunde, and the money would be transferred within minutes. Obina would get the best care, Chioma wouldn't have to suffer, everything would be fine. But something held him back. If he revealed who he really was now, everything would change. Chioma would question everything between them. Had he been playing with her, studying her like some social experiment? Would she ever trust him again? Yet how could he stand by and watch her suffer when he had the power to help? The next morning, he found Chioma sitting outside her room, tears streaming down her face. Obina was getting worse. I don't know what to do, she sobbed. I've borrowed from everyone I can. I've begged, I've pleaded, but it's not enough. It's never enough. And I'm going to lose him, Jaden. I'm going to lose my brother because I don't have money. Jaden knelt beside her, his heart breaking. Listen to me. We'll find a way. I promise you. How? She demanded, anger mixing with her despair. How, Jaden? We're poor. That's the reality. We work hard, we're good people, but when sickness comes, when trouble comes, we have nothing. No power, no connections, no money. We're invisible to the people who could help us. Her words struck him like a physical blow, because they were true. The system he had benefited from his entire life was the same system crushing people like Chioma every single day. I'll get the money, he said firmly. She looked at him with hollow eyes. How, unless you're secretly a millionaire, there's no way. She meant it as a bitter joke, but Jaden felt his stomach drop. That afternoon, Jaden made a decision. He walked to a nearby internet cafe and sent an encrypted email to Tunde. Within an hour, he had a response. The money would be ready by evening, but Tunde had questions. Sir, your 30 days aren't over yet. Are you coming back? Jaden stared at the screen. He had 17 days left, but what did that matter when someone's life was at stake? He typed his response. Transfer the money anonymously to this hospital account. They'll know it's for Obina's treatment. Don't mention my name. As he walked back to the compound, his phone, his old phone that he'd kept powered off in his bag, buzzed with a message. It was from his business partner in New York. The merger was falling apart. His presence was needed immediately. Millions were at stake. Millions. 3 weeks ago, that message would have sent him running back to Lagos on the next flight. But now, looking at the compound where children played despite their poverty, where Mama Ngozi swept her small area with pride, where Chioma fought for her brother's life with nothing but love and determination, those millions felt distant and cold. He powered off the phone and threw it back in his bag.
That evening, Sister Amara came running to the compound, her face bright with shock and joy. "Chioma, Chioma, the hospital just called. Someone paid for Obina's treatment. All of it. They said an anonymous donor covered everything. He's being transferred to the private ward right now." Chioma collapsed to her knees, sobbing with relief. Mama Ngozi and other neighbors gathered around her, praising God, crying together. Jaden stood back, watching, feeling the weight of his secret pressing down on him. Chioma looked up, her eyes finding his through the crowd. She ran to him and threw her arms around him. "Thank you," she whispered. "I didn't do anything," he said, but the lie tasted bitter. "You gave me hope. You stayed with me. That's everything." As he held her, feeling her tears soak his shirt, Jaden knew he was at a crossroads. His 30 days were almost over. Soon he would have to return to his real life. But how could he leave this? How could he leave her? The next 2 weeks passed in a strange blur. Obina recovered quickly with proper treatment and medicine. Chioma seemed lighter, happier. She and Jaden grew even closer, spending every free moment together. She talked about the future, small dreams that seemed enormous to her. Maybe saving enough to buy a better house. Maybe starting that school she dreamed of. Maybe, she said with a shy smile, sharing those dreams with someone special. Jaden felt his secret growing heavier each day. He tried to tell her several times. The words would form in his mouth, but then she would laugh at something, or take his hand, or look at him with such pure trust that he couldn't bear to shatter it. On the 28th day, everything fell apart. A sleek black car pulled into the compound. It was so out of place that everyone stopped to stare. A man in an expensive suit stepped out. Tunde. "Mr. Richards," he called, and the compound went silent. Jaden felt his blood turn to ice. Tunde approached, his face apologetic but urgent. "Mr. Richards, I'm sorry to come here, but it's an emergency. The company, your company, is being investigated. Fraud allegations. If you don't come back immediately and handle this, you could lose everything." The words hung in the air like poison. Every eye in the compound turned to Jaden. He saw confusion, then understanding, then betrayal flash across their faces. But it was Chioma's face that destroyed him. "Mr. Richards?" she repeated slowly. "Your company?" "Chioma, I can explain." "Who are you?" she repeated, her voice cold now, distant. "Really, who are you?" Tunde, sensing the tension, tried to help. "Ma'am, this is Jaden Richards, the investment tycoon. He's one of the richest men in Nigeria. His net worth is—" "Stop," Chioma commanded, holding up her hand. She looked at Jaden with eyes that seemed to see through him. "Is this true?" There was no point in lying anymore. "Yes." "So all of this, living here, working with Chidi, pretending to be one of us, was it what, a game? An experiment? Were you studying us like animals in a zoo?" "No, Chioma, please." "And Obina's treatment? That anonymous donor?" Her laugh was bitter. "That was you. You let me cry, let me beg, let me feel helpless when you could have solved it with pocket change." "I wanted to help, but I didn't know how to—" "You didn't know how to tell the truth," she shouted, and you saw tears streaming down her face. "I trusted you, Jaden. I opened my heart to you. I thought you were different, that you understood what real life was like, but you were just playing pretend. And when you got bored, you could just leave and go back to your real life, while we stay here, living this every single day. That's not fair. I changed. Being here changed me." "Did it? Or did you just enjoy feeling noble for a few weeks?" She wiped her tears angrily. "People like you think you can walk into our lives, experience our pain like it's some kind of adventure, learn your little lessons, and then go back to your comfortable world. You think poverty is romantic when you know you have millions waiting for you. But for us, Jaden, this is our reality. There's no escape. There's no going back to a penthouse when we get tired." Every word was a knife, and Jaden knew he deserved each cut. Mama Ngozi stepped forward, her kind face now hard with disappointment.
You lied to us. We welcomed you as family, and you lied. I never lied about caring for you, any of you. But you lied about who you were, Chidi said quietly. He had arrived during the confrontation, and his voice held more sadness than anger. Trust is built on truth, my brother. Without truth, what do we have? Jaden looked around at the faces of the people who had become his family. They weren't angry so much as hurt. He had made them feel small, insignificant, like objects in his personal growth journey. "I'm sorry," he said, and meant it with every fiber of his being. "I'm so sorry. I came here because I was empty, and you filled me with something real. You showed me what matters. You taught me about love and community and sacrifice. I don't expect you to forgive me, but please know that my feelings were never fake. What I felt here, what I learned here, it was real." Chioma looked at him one last time, her eyes red but her voice steady. "Then I hope you remember it when you go back to your real life. I hope you remember us, not as characters in your story of self-discovery, but as real people with real struggles who gave you more than you ever gave us." She turned and walked away, and Jaden didn't try to stop her. Tunde cleared his throat uncomfortably. "Sir, we really need to go. The next flight to Lagos leaves in 2 hours." Jaden stood there, in the compound that had been his home for nearly 30 days, surrounded by people who now looked at him like a stranger. Everything he had built here, every connection, every moment of genuine happiness, it was crumbling like sand through his fingers. "I will stay," he told Tunde. That hour became the most important hour of Jaden Richards' life. He didn't spend it packing. He didn't spend it making phone calls about his company. Instead, he sat down with his laptop and began to write. He wrote transfer orders, legal documents, instructions to his lawyers and accountants. When he was done, he called Tunde over. "I need you to do something for me. These documents need to be filed immediately." Tunde scanned them, and his eyes widened. "Sir, are you sure?" "I'm never more sure of anything." Then Jaden gathered everyone in the compound. They came reluctantly, standing at a distance, their trust broken but their curiosity alive. "I know I don't deserve your time," Jaden began, "but please hear me out. When I came here, I thought I was giving something up. I thought I was sacrificing my comfort to learn some lessons about life. But I was wrong. I wasn't giving up anything. I was receiving everything." He looked at each person as he spoke. "Mama Ngozi, you taught me that true wealth is in generosity. You shared your food, your wisdom, your kindness when you had every reason to keep it for yourself. Chidi, you showed me honest work brings dignity that no amount of money can buy. Sister Amara, you proved that healing isn't just medicine, it's compassion. Emeka, you reminded me that joy doesn't cost anything. And Chioma," his voice broke. She was standing at the back, arms crossed, face closed. "Chioma, you showed me what real love looks like. Not the kind that's transactional or conditional, but the kind that gives everything and expects nothing. You loved your brother so much, you would have given your life for him. You cared about your students even when the system failed them. You opened your heart to me when I was a stranger. That's real wealth. That's real power, and I was too blind to see it before." He pulled out a folder of documents. "I can't undo my deception. I can't take back the hurt I've caused, but I can try to make things right. In this folder are documents establishing a foundation. It will build and fund schools in underserved communities. Chioma, you'll run it if you want. The first school will be built right here in this neighborhood. It will have everything. Good teachers, new books, computers, everything children deserve." Mama Ngozi gasped. Others began to murmur. "There are also medical funds set up for the community clinic.
Sister Amara, you'll have the resources to actually save lives instead of just watching people die because they can't afford treatment. Sister Amara's hand went to her mouth, tears filling her eyes. And for everyone in this compound, there are education funds, small business grants, and housing assistance, not handouts, opportunities, because you taught me that what people need isn't charity, it's a chance. Anyone can give money, Chioma said, her voice cutting through the emotion. You have plenty of that. You're right, Jaden acknowledged. Money alone means nothing. That's why I'm staying. The crowd erupted in shocked whispers. Sir, what? Tunde stammered. The company, the investigation? The company will survive or it won't. I have good lawyers and honest books. But even if I lose everything, it doesn't matter. I spent 30 days discovering what truly matters, and I'm not walking away from it. He took a step toward Chioma. I'm not asking you to forgive me right away. I'm not asking you to trust me today. I'm just asking for a chance to prove that I've changed. Not for 30 days, not as an experiment, but for real, forever. Chioma stared at him, her eyes searching his face for any sign of deception. You would give up everything? Your life in Lagos? Your business empire? Your wealth? I'm not giving it up. I'm redirecting it, using it for something that matters. You asked me what I was running from. The truth is, I was running from emptiness, but I'm not running anymore. I want to stay. I want to build something real here, with you, with all of you. The silence stretched for what felt like eternity. Then Mama Ngozi began to clap, slowly at first, but then with growing enthusiasm. Chidi joined her, then Sister Amara, then Emeka and others. Soon the whole compound was applauding, some crying, some laughing, all of them moved. But Chioma didn't clap. She walked forward until she stood directly in front of Jaden. If you stay, she said quietly, you stay as one of us, not as Mr. Richards the millionaire, not as the rich man playing poor. You stay as Jaden, our neighbor, our friend. Can you do that? He took her hands in his. I don't want to be anything else. She studied his face for a long moment, and then, slowly, she smiled. It was small and cautious, but it was real. Then, welcome home, Jaden. He pulled her into his arms, and this time when she cried, they were tears of hope, not betrayal. The next 6 months were a whirlwind. Jaden did return to Lagos, but only long enough to restructure his business. He appointed new management, sold some assets, and redistributed his focus. The investigation cleared him, his books were clean, but the experience taught him that wealth could vanish overnight. True riches, he now knew, couldn't be taken away. He moved back to Mape, this time not as an experiment, but as a commitment. He and Chioma worked together to establish the school. They called it Hope Academy, and its motto was simple: every child deserves a chance. On the day it opened, Jaden stood beside Chioma, watching children stream into bright classrooms with new books and eager smiles. Mama Ngozi was there, now employed as the school's grandmother figure, welcoming students with her warm smile. Chidi had expanded his repair shop into a vocational training center for young people. Sister Amara ran a modern clinic with actual supplies and medicine. The compound had transformed, but not in the way Jaden had thought wealth would transform it. The buildings were still modest, life was still hard, but there was hope now, and opportunity, and a sense that maybe, just maybe, things could be different. Are you happy? Chioma asked him that evening as they sat on the veranda, watching the sunset paint the sky.
Jaden thought about his old life, the penthouse, the parties, the empty conversations. Then he looked at the compound, at children playing, at neighbors sharing a meal, at Chioma's hand in his. I've never been happier, he said truthfully. Even though you gave up your fortune, I didn't give it up. I invested it in something that actually matters, and the returns have been beyond anything Wall Street could offer. She laughed and leaned her head on his shoulder. You know, you're still terrible at bargaining in the market. Hey, I'm learning.
And you still can't cook beans properly. That's why I have you. Is that the only reason? She teased. He turned to face her, his expression suddenly serious. No, I have you because somehow, miraculously, you gave a foolish man a second chance. Because you saw past the money and the lies to something worth loving. Because you taught me that love isn't about what you have, it's about what you give. Chioma's eyes glistened. I love you too, you know, the real you, not Mr. Richards, just Jaden. Just Jaden, he repeated, and realized those words held more truth and value than any title he'd ever earned. As night fell over the compound, stars appeared one by one in the vast African sky. Inside the small room that was now his home, Jaden Richards, former millionaire, current teacher, and forever student of life, fell asleep with a smile on his face and peace in his heart. He had set out to learn about life in 30 days. Instead, he learned about love, and that lesson, he knew, would take a lifetime to fully understand. But he was ready, because he had finally found what no amount of money could ever buy, a place to belong, people who truly cared, and a purpose worth living for. This story teaches us that true wealth is not measured in money, possessions, or social status, but in the depth of our relationships, the sincerity of our love, and the impact we have on others' lives. Jaden Richards discovered what many spend their entire lives never learning, that the greatest riches are found not in what we accumulate, but in what we share. Money can open doors, but only genuine connection can fill the emptiness of the heart. When we approach others with humility rather than pride, with honesty rather than deception, and with service rather than exploitation, we become truly wealthy in the ways that matter most. Moreover, this story reminds us that every person, regardless of their economic status, has dignity, wisdom, and value to offer. The poor taught the rich man lessons about generosity, community, and authentic love that his fortune could never purchase. Let us remember that real transformation comes not from experiencing poverty as a temporary adventure, but from genuinely seeing and honoring the humanity in everyone we meet. And when we are blessed with resources, our responsibility is not to hoard them or feel superior, but to use them as tools to lift others, create opportunities, and build a more just and compassionate world for all.